Fastima's not attending.
Jason, are you okay with starting now? Or
Yeah, let's roll. 7:03.
What do you typically?
yes, okay.
The length?
Well, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Our chair, Bill Rice, is unable to be with us today, and he asked that I, Wanda Younger, proceed with today's agenda. And if there aren't any objections from the commissioners, I would like to take the agenda out of order and start with public comments to discuss the proposed ceasefire resolution. Was there any objection to that?
Well, yes, I think the commission needs to decide first if we have any even authority to entertain any action on international issues. And so if it turns out that the commission decides that we don't have the authority under our ordinance, I'm not sure the public comments are all that relevant.
I tend to agree with. Plus, I think the county board also gave its opinion.
Well, I'm not going to assume why anybody from the public is here, so, you know, I don't have an objection to members of the public having to say, but I agree that if that's the decision, then.
So
But we can't even vote because we don't have. quorum.
Yeah, that's true. We can't vote.
This doesn't even matter.
But in terms of public comment.
So
They can-
Wanda, this
they
is
can go for it.
Stefan, can you hear me?
Yeah, you guys can do public comment, you just can't transact in business because you're not informed.
Okay.
I think Stefan was talking.
We
So
we
can-
can't vote on it, but we want to change the agenda anyway, because we don't have a quorum. Correct.
We can certainly start. with public comment.
Does anyone know how the resolution got to us? I was not at the meeting last month.
That's where I have volumes on set.
You can't hear me.
We can't hear you.
Try again.
Yeah, I'm not on mute, so
You can hear very, very quiet.
You want to just put it in the. Because our volume's the highest for some reason.
Okay. Are you able to put your comments in the chat? Because we can't hear.
can you hear me now?
Not enough to
Okay.
see.
Okay.
do you want to see if Fatima can speak?
Yeah.
I have the same problem with the
The volume.
program, which is why I can't do the hybrids myself.
Fatima, can you come off mute so we can see if we can hear you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you had to say, and I was talking at the same time. Were you addressing me or Stefan?
Okay, well, since we can't hear you, if you don't mind putting your comments in the chat, and what we'll do now is we'll start with any public comments in regards to the ceasefire proposal. Is there anyone in person who would like to make any public comments? Raise your hand.
I was here to make a comment, but if you're not gonna address it, then that's what my comment is about. So I'm happy to read what I wrote.
It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will, I'm happy to. So my name's Samara Weinstein. I've lived in Arlington County for almost 30 years. I urged the Arlington County Human Rights Commission not to take an official position on the Israel-Hamas war. The Arlington County Board rightfully determined that an official stance would neither be appropriate nor helpful at this time and remains outside the purview of the Arlington County Board as a local government. The Arlington Code establishing the Human Rights Commission states that the chapter is an expression of the commitment and support of the local level to continue working towards the improvement of the quality of life in the county. And I strongly believe that the board and the Human Rights Commission should stay out of international politics. There's no benefit to Arlington County residents by having the Arlington County Board or Human Rights Commission express views on divisive issues over which it has zero influence or jurisdiction. As a Jewish parent of children who attended Arlington County Public Schools, I would suggest that if you are looking at local issues, you think about addressing issues here in Arlington. Our children are having to navigate hate and anti-Semitism in our public schools, from swastikas being drawn in the hallways to hearing APS students say Hitler was right and gas the Jews. Jewish students in APS have faced a dramatic increase in anti-Semitic incidents since October 7th. The school board and administration is aware, but they're struggling to contain it. Please do not make the situation in our county worse by making a statement that has nothing to do with Arlington County. No resolution will help bring back hostages or facilitate a ceasefire in a war occurring halfway around the world. A vote will only amplify anti-Semitism in our community. Please focus on your mission, which is improving the quality of life in Arlington County. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present who would like to make public comment? Yes.
Yes, my name is Michael Beer. I live in Maywood. I'm in support of the Human Rights Commission taking a stand on this issue of unfolding genocide in Palestine, and with the very strong support of the US government, unfortunately with its weapons and political support. I think that the impact on Palestinian Arlingtonians is extreme, with our taxpayers' dollars going to kill their family members, and with extreme substantial anti-Islamic and anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian kind of from the government, but also being reflected in experiences that children have in schools, as well as people here in the public and Palestinians here. We do have a track record here in Arlington, I think, historically, of taking a stand against South African apartheid. It's very clear that Israeli apartheid is much more severe even than South African apartheid was. I say all this as the great grandson of somebody who died in the Nazi camp. I had third cousins killed on October 7th. I had hostages, third cousin hostages taken on October 7th, and there's still some. This war is killing American hostages, Israeli hostages. It's killing American Palestinians in Gaza. And I think it's incumbent upon, because of the extreme nature of our current situation of unfolding genocide that we are seeing, where we cut off food, water, and electric pole power and medicines to an entire population of 2.2 million people. In particular, the Palestinian families here in Arlington need to be recognized for the severe kind of experience that they're going through. And we should stand up for their human rights by stepping up and calling for a permanent and lasting ceasefire and a halt to this unfolding genocide. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Berta.
Yes, I have a comment. My name is Jamie Dvoretsky, and I'm going to read an email that I sent today to Attorney General Miyares and copying the Human Rights Commission and Manasseh Ferranti. Dear Attorney General Miyares, it has come to my attention that the Arlington Human Rights Commission is considering a bigoted resolution that condemns Jews. Please see this article, and I attached an article from the Gazette Leader, since the commission apparently keeps its agenda so well hidden that I could not find it. As an Arlington.
I'm sorry, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Yes, could you hear what I said so far?
You broke up in the middle.
Okay, so I'll read an email that I sent earlier today here to the Attorney General. It has come to my attention that the Arlington County Human Rights Commission is considering a bigoted resolution.
I'm sorry, you cut off again. I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Well, somebody keeps muting me. I don't know why, but I'll start again. It has come to my attention that the Arlington County Human Rights Commission is considering a bigoted resolution that condemns Jews. please see the article from the Gazette.
Why don't you just ask her to paste her comments into the chat and then?
No, I'm
someone-
not going to paste them. I'm going to say them, since the commission keeps its agenda so well hidden that I couldn't find it. As an Arlington resident, I am writing to express my strong disapproval of the resolution that the in secret. There are numerous countries that, unlike Israel, have no regard whatsoever for the human rights of their residents. Even after it was viciously attacked on October 7th, Israel has gone above and beyond what any country at war would do to protect the lives of innocent civilians, Jewish and non-Jewish. If the Arlington Human Rights Commission is considering condemning the Jewish state, then it has willfully chosen to ignore the facts. Singling out Israel for condemnation would be an act of blatant anti-Semitism. Perhaps you can explain this to the HRC before it makes the mistake of passing a discriminatory resolution, which will cause harm to Jews in Virginia. Be aware that if this passes, I am prepared to take legal action and to broadcast the biggest and state governments. That's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else virtually who would like to make a public comment?
Given that it seems that not everyone actually has read or heard the resolution, it seems that the last person who spoke was not able to find it. Maybe it would be useful before anyone else made any public comments for you to read it so that people can make informed comments.
But before we go any further, I just want to make sure, can everyone hear me?
I did find it online, so it is possible.
Can everyone hear me?
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Was that a yes?
We haven't voted.
Yes,
No, can everyone hear me?
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have any audio problems.
My
in case
request was,
somebody-
so I was able to find the text of the resolution in question online on the website. Since it's clear that not everyone has been able to find it, I was wondering if it would be helpful if you read it so that all comments then are informed by the text as opposed to what other people have written about it.
Well, and to your point, that was the question I was going to ask after public comment has everybody who's commented actually read?
So maybe it would be more helpful to read it before public comments. That way.
I'm assuming anyone who's speaking, asking us to vote for or against the resolution has actually read the
We
resolution.
know that's not true.
Okay, can I just, is there any objection to reading the?
Do we have quorum now? The Roland's here? We should vote on whether or not, we can make a motion then, that we vote, motion as to whether or not we believe the HRC even has the authority, purview, or jurisdiction to respond to any of this.
Anyone want to second the motion?
Second.
Open for discussion. How much is Simone?
So I don't think the HRC
Well, I
has,
think
Just 1 second,
I have a
please.
question on that.
We
Based
have
on,
someone-
based on what criteria, I think we need to define the criteria for the motion. I mean, we can't just decide on this. What does this entail? You know, we need to determine what that is.
Who is that speaking? Fatima.
That's me, it's Fatima.
this is whether or not the Human Rights Commission has the authority or jurisdiction to address international issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's define international issues.
What do you mean, defender? Fatima, what's the problem? What do you want to say? Just say it.
No, I think we need to define what that is.
Let me rephrase. Change my motion to anything outside of Arlington County,
Okay,
okay?
but I
Does
think
this
they
commission,
mentioned
does
that
this
there was
Arlington
a
County
precedent.
Commission have,
Ms. Fatima, right now, there's a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. And now we're going to open it up for discussion. We're going to allow Stephen to speak first, and we're going to go around the room and give you an opportunity to speak.
okay, so
Okay,
so the motion was seconded. Are we gonna vote on the motion?
all right. It's hard to see everyone in the room. If they could adjust the camera, and that would be a lot more helpful. Thank you.
The motion was second.
Okay, but we need to vote on it, right?
First is to be discussion. Does anyone have that?
Well, I think we have to vote on the motion,
Okay, yes.
right? So, off for the vote.
Any objections?
I object.
Okay, I vote for.
I vote for.
Or
Same.
I vote for.
Okay, the motion passes.
We can have discussion.
Go ahead. So I don't believe the Arlington Human Rights Commission has authority to entertain any of the stuff related to international issues. Ordinance, chapter 31, dealing with the human rights ordinance only addresses Arlington County. This is not an Arlington County issue. End of discussion.
Roland, do you have any?
Other than to say, if this is the same resolution, I guess that was sent to the chair of the county board and was also sent to the chairman of the commission, and has been a response from the chair of the county board pretty much to the petition, to the resolution itself, which is pretty dispositive.
I agree.
Did I comment?
Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, may I comment?
Yes.
So it's my understanding that there is a precedent for this, and I think somebody else mentioned it, which is there was an apartheid resolution. And based on that, I think, you know, we should go with the precedent on this.
Stefan, do you have any comments?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, and
think
if I
that-
could finish real quickly, I think this requires a discussion before we can come to a motion.
Wait.
And I don't believe that discussion has been had, so.
I'm sorry, wasn't Stephen's motion adopted by the commission?
Yes.
Yes.
But there was no discussion allowed before there was a vote taken. Isn't there usually time for a discussion?
What's happening now?
Go ahead, Stefan.
I'm not sure that I agree with quite the breadth of what Stephen mentioned. For instance, if there's a human rights issue in Virginia, I think we probably could weigh in. That being said, I think that international policy is far beyond the purview of our work, and I support Stephen's motion.
Angela.
She doesn't know what the motion is.
It's okay, I can go closer real quick. Would you like Stephen to repeat the motion so that you can understand?
Sure.
Well, I mean, I think the original motion was just to have a discussion about whether or not this is even a topic that we can address. That was the motion. So there was 4 votes for, 1 vote, 1 abstain. That passed. So now we're having a discussion.
But I don't think there's been sufficient discussion about the topic.
This is the discussion.
That is the discussion.
We're doing it right now.
Wait, I'm a little confused though. If the motion passed, why are we having the discussion now?
Because the motion was to have a discussion. I didn't make a motion to not entertain, not to deny the resolution or to address any sort of international issues. It's just a motion to have a discussion about this before we go to public comment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the motion
Okay.
passed, we're having the discussion. Say your part.
I'm sorry, who are you addressing, myself or Stefan?
Anyone?
You, Fatima, you can go ahead if you have anything else to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I object because I think that there is a precedent, as I said, and as somebody else in the meeting also said, there is an apartheid resolution, and there was an apartheid resolution that was considered, and I believe even voted on. So if that was, last time I checked, South Africa was not in Arlington. So why is that why is it okay to vote on that, but not on this? I mean, I think we need to be fair.
Can I make a comment?
Well, can I just go back to Stefan? Stefan, do you have anything else to add?
I think besides largely agreeing that anything international is beyond the purview of the work that we do, I also think that the commission should be very careful about addressing issues that is going to anger and upset people on all sides of an issue. One of the things we're supposed to do is to help promote a positive Arlington, and this is not something that is going to move the ball forward in that direction. We can talk about the substance of the resolution line by line if we need to. I think that we should not actually entertain the resolution. There's also, of course, the issues that were the motion, or not the motion, the reason that it was brought to the commission apparently was to lend support for this at the county board level, which it's addressed to. The county board is not gonna take up this issue, which kind of makes the request to us moot anyway. So whether from a divisiveness issue, from an international issue, or a posture issue where it is now, I don't think it makes sense for us to consider this resolution.
May I
No,
just jump in and, I'm sorry.
Fatima, we have other people that need to have an opportunity to speak.
Apologies, again, I can't see the whole room.
Angela?
Sure, yeah, I mean, in terms of the discussion about the resolution right now, I think I tend to agree. I think that we probably all have individual strong opinions about this matter, but for a commission standpoint, since it is so much out of the purview of Arlington, I just don't think that we at this point should take a specific stance on it, especially since the county has also decided not to. So that's where it's.
Carol, did you have something follow up?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Fatima, did you have a follow up?
Yeah, no, I think, I respect the decision of the commission. And I guess we're going to have to go with it. But I do not agree that the discussion should not be had because it's an international issue. And I'd like for that to go down as a point that is emphasized in the notes, that it should not be based on the international nature of it, because as I said, there have been previous decisions made by this body on international on issues of international import. So again, I respect the decision of the commission, but I posit that it's not necessarily based on international issues, because I've already pointed out a couple precedents.
Thank you, Fatima. Is there any more discussion on Stephen's motion? Hearing none.
Yes, I would like to raise a point.
This is just for the commissioners to decide whether we have the authority to move forward and to entertain the resolution. So this is just for the commissioners to make any additional comments, and if not, then we will proceed with the vote, whether we have the authority to move forward with the resolution. Start with Steve.
I just want to make sure I'm capturing the proper language, what we're voting on. Can you just repeat what you said about what the vote's going to be on?
I was repeating yours, so I think it'd be best to.
So how do we say this? The vote is whether the Human Rights Commission should take a stand on the ceasefire resolution that's before us, that we're asked to address. Does that work for everybody?
I thought we were voting on whether or not we had the authority to propose something on international politics.
Well, that was the discussion.
Which I don't see as the same as the resolution.
You want to propose some language for a motion? I'm happy to write it down and we can read it back.
I thought that's what we were discussing.
It was, but if we don't have authority to discuss international issues or to address international issues, the ceasefire resolution is an international issue. But we can change the language.
I just think it's a little bit nuanced because I don't know who submitted the resolution, who wrote it. I don't have enough information, even having read it, and let alone other people who haven't read it. So I think the bigger issue is, do we have the authority to exercise, to vote on a resolution one way or another that has to do with international?
Steve, can I propose something?
Sure.
Could the question be whether or not Human Rights Commission has the authority to approve the resolution as presented to the commission.
I think it's just Carol saying.
Okay with that?
Does everyone understand then what they would be voting on? So then a vote that aye means that yes, we have the authority. And a vote no would be that we do not have the authority.
Devon and Fatima, did you hear that? The motion?
I did. I'll respond, when it's my turn.
We're going to go around the room for a vote.
Okay.
Stephen?
Sorry, I'm just trying to take notes for the meeting and make sure I captured Roland's motion correctly. Is this what you said? Whether the HRC has the authority to vote on the resolution?
No, to whether or not the Human Rights Commission has the authority to approve the resolution as presented to the Human Rights Commission.
Okay, everyone okay with, everyone understand what we're voting on? Okay. So I vote we do not have authority.
I vote we do not have authority.
Yeah.
I vote we do not have.
Walt?
No authority.
I vote we do not have the authority.
I do not have.
Stefan?
Do not have the authority.
Fatima?
I'm going to vote yes, because I don't know whether we have the authority or not. And as a default position, I'm going to say yes, because I'm not sure that we do. And I'd like to leave it open for discussion in the event that it's determined that we do. And I also like to determine what criteria we're looking at in terms of determining whether or not we have the authority. There's also that. So it's, if you guys want to make a simple decision on that, okay. I guess I can't say much more about it, but I've made my thoughts known. It looks like we have the majority to not consider it at this time, and that's all I have to say. I respect we have to respect the decision of the commission.
Thank you, Fatima. And it looks like we have 7.
7 do not have authorities, 1 would give authority, 0 abstain.
Correct. So with that, there will be no vote on the resolution tonight. But we're still able to, take public comments, but there will not be a vote from the Human Rights Commission in terms of the resolution. So is there any other comments from anyone virtually? Arthur? Arthur, virtually, do you have any comment, public comment?
No, nothing specific. I do support the action that the commission is taking. I think it's the appropriate and prudent position based upon the action that was taken by the Arlington County Board. I think this has been stated by other speakers. This is a very divisive issue in Arlington County. And I think the role of the Human Rights Commission in Arlington is really to work through and issues in a cooperative and supportive way to all members of the diverse communities within Arlington. And I think by not taking action at this time, as one of our previous speakers noted, there's a lot of pain that's going on in this county and in this country and in this world right now. And I think the last thing we want to do in Arlington County is to further inflame the sentiments and the views of people. We recognize that there's tragic circumstances that exist in the Middle East right now, I think, and no one could deny that at all. At the same time, I think it's absolutely important that Arlington stand together and recognize that rather than be advocates for one position or another, that we step back and act in a way that's thoughtful and prudent and welcoming to all members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lauren, you have a public comment?
I do, yeah. I originally had a public comment in support of the ceasefire resolution, but I kind of want to deviate and just say that I'm really disappointed by the way that this has been conducted. It seems like there should be some kind of statute or some kind of policy about how you all, like what the purview of the commission is, and for you all just to kind of off the top of your heads decide what is and is not within your purview seems very arbitrary. So I would love to hear more about like where your actual, what defines your role as a commission. I also want to just harp on something that was said tonight several times, that we need to like stand together. And I think we're doing that at the expense of Palestinians who live in Arlington, because there are Palestinians who live in Arlington who are watching their families be slaughtered day in, day out during this ongoing genocide. So I just think we need to be mindful of that, and that we shouldn't sacrifice supporting Palestinians in our community for the sake of protecting people's feelings. That's my comment.
Thank you, Lauren. And the Arlington County Code, Chapter 31, Human Rights, provides us with our authority. So you please feel free to, look at the county code. It's Arlington County Code, Chapter 31, Human Rights, and that defines our role as Human Rights Commissioners. But thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else virtually would like to make a comment, public comment?
Yeah, I'll go real quick. This is Sam. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I also had a written out comment in support of the ceasefire resolution. I guess I'm going to go a little off script and say that I do share some of the disappointment that Lauren expressed. You technically, yes, the bombs that are falling over in Gaza and the West Bank and not in the United States. But, this is also what many have described as the most documented genocide in the entirety of human history. South Africa has an 84-page report that, includes countless primary sources, countless humanitarian organizations, countless direct quotes from Israeli officials that express genocidal intent. So I'm not going to debate with anyone whether this is a genocide, but this also has profound psychological effects for many of the local communities, Palestinians and Arabs especially, but really for many, many people who will open their phone, scroll through Instagram, and the vast majority of their feed is shown, bombs blowing up buildings in Gaza, or children without arms and legs, or with body parts, blown off. So it is a local issue in the sense that, it's having immense psychological effects, again, like I said, more so for Palestinians, but even for myself as a Jew, it's really painful.
The Arlington Human Rights Commission.
The Holocaust,
if you're not
being weaponized.
That's already voted that they're not doing anything.
Could you please put yourself on mute?
Yeah. So
Sam?
yeah, I was gonna say that as a Jew myself, it's really disappointing to see, the Holocaust be weaponized and used as a justification to commit another genocide. And again, this should, in my eyes, be a matter of basic humanity rather than, the fine minutia of legality. And then I'm also going to further mention that there were, instances in the past that can all be found online of the Arlington County Board passing international proclamations that relate to international issues, such as March 2022, a proclamation, February resolution of support of Ivano-Frankivsk city in Ukraine, as well as proclamation of Peruvian National Day in July 2019, and proclamation of Argentina National Day in March 2017. So yeah, I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Sam. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment?
Yeah, hi, this is Hannah. I'd just like to reiterate the disappointment that both Sam and Lauren have expressed, particularly in light of what Sam just brought up in terms of this. If it's not under the jurisdiction, then you've clearly not had an issue with expressing opinions on things that are outside of the jurisdiction in the past. And yeah, to me, this is a very simple moral issue. The US is inextricably intertwined with this genocide in Gaza. This isn't just something that's happening over there completely divorced from us. And yeah, I just don't want anyone on the commission here. I would hope that none of you would be laboring under the delusion that you've managed to avoid picking a side because you're hiding behind jurisdictional minutia. That's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment virtually?
Yes, I would.
Also like to make a public comment. Hi, my name is Lauren. I am a family member of a person who serves as a fireman for the Arlington County Fire Department. And as that, as a representative of that person, she is a Muslim woman who often faces vitriol and hate now due to the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And she is a public servant and worker. So there is a lot of disappointment around the decision that you all have made today, especially seeing as that so many of our community members that are vital to our team are members of the Muslim and Arab community, and you choose to ignore their struggle, all to placate the feeling of people, and I will say Jewish people, not to say that they don't have a right to be upset, but if we're going to be honest about the situation, this genocide didn't start on October 7th. It started on October 3rd and 4th when Gaza was bombed the first time before October 7th was even attacked. So I just think it is really, really offensive that you choose to ignore the context around the situation, and you decide to be silent when there are members of our community that are suffering and that serve us, that may one day have to save your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online? Public comment?
I would like to say that I object to everything that the last three speakers have said. I feel like this entire discussion has been an act of just blatant anti-Semitism and an anti-Semitic blood libel. And I feel that my rights are being violated by just bringing it up.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online?
Hi, my name is Dima, and actually I'm here to discuss something else. But I first want to discuss the resolution that you decided not to consider. I am a Gazaean. My family has been hurt, killed, our homes destroyed, our property, our lives. I have people, relatives who are stuck in the churches starving to death right now. And standing together in Arlington, I did not feel it from anybody. Okay. And our kids, we protect them in schools. We try to make sure that they don't stand out so they're not attacked by others. They report coming back home, finding other kids in school wearing IDF t-shirts. Okay. Do you know what kind of terror they live in when they see that? Especially when they hear that our relatives are dying. I have one of my relatives is a school teacher who's retired, 83-year-old woman. She left the church because she was cold to go back to her apartment, which was a couple of blocks away. And she was shot by a sniper. She was left to bleed on the street for 48 hours to death. And they blocked that road, okay? And they wouldn't let anybody come rescue her, not the Red Cross, not anybody, okay? Not her. She kept calling on the cell phone to her niece so that somebody would come and help her, and nobody could. The neighbors could only look from upstairs and just see her lying down there next to the other dead corpses around her because snipers were shooting. And at the end, another sniper decided to shoot her to death and put her out of her misery, only to have a bulldozer go over her, and we received her body without her arms. This is what we're going through. I hate to give you the gory details, but this is one sample of one experience from my family and relatives in Gaza. And I want Arlington to support us. I am not against Jews. I am against what is happening to my people. And I expect my Jewish friends to stand with me and condemn this, because innocent people, innocent children are dying every day, and nobody cares about our blood. We are not important. And yes, I want all hostages free. All the hostages in Gaza and all the hostages in the jails in Israel right now, all the kids who have been collected from their homes in the middle of the night, innocent kids who are put in jails without charges under military conditions. And no, this is not unreasonable to ask Arlington to show support, that this is not acceptable, this is not humanitarian, this is against humanity, and all Jews should rise and stand with us. The real reason I'm here today is actually because I want you to reconsider a resolution that was passed by the Arlington Board in June of 2022, which is the IHRA definition. That definition does not apply to Arlington because Arlington does have Semitism described in its history on the deeds of the lots of all our properties. All over Arlington, Semitism is defined, and that includes people of Jewish descent, Armenian descent, Syrian descent, which includes all the Levant region, which includes the Palestinians, Lebanese, Jordanians, and Syrians. So we need to reconsider that definition, since we see that definition is very broad and generalized, and it's to suppress free speech. And I think your commission should reconsider that resolution and have it rescinded and have one that applies to Arlington and Arlington's racist history, where it did not allow people of Semitic descent, which includes all these people that I mentioned, and African Americans to purchase property and live in certain areas of Arlington County. Thank you.
And just to remind or to inform everyone that there is a 3-minute time limit for public speaking. And for those online who have their hands up and who have already spoken, if you would kindly put your hand down so that we don't confuse you with those who haven't had an opportunity to speak. With that said, is there anyone else virtually who would like to make a public comment? Anyone else would like to make a public comment? If not,
I would just like. You go, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Amelia Wolf. I'm at a congregation Eitz Chaim in Arlington. I only moved here in July, so I'm still getting to the area. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I did have a chance to read the text of the resolution. I honestly believe that whoever wrote it and whoever is seriously considering it is doing so out of a lot of fear and compassion of what is going on in this world. The resolution does call for a release of all of the hostages. It also calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. And again, I say this with humility, being new to the area. We live right outside of DC, and we live in a country where we directly vote for our representatives, who are the ones that make international decisions. So if all of this passion that people are expressing here could be directed to those in government who actually have powers to vote and make decisions. I'm not weighing in on how you vote, and I'm not weighing in on what you say to your representatives, but it seems like there could be a lot of energy devoted there, so that the Human Rights Commission here can focus on what they're actually able to affect, which is not about my feelings as a Jew or the feelings of anybody, but concrete material issues that Arlingtonians face, and who, when they are discriminated against for their human rights, this commission has a chance to step up and do something about that, but won't be able to if it spends all of its time
trying to do what only Congress and the executive branch of our entire government nationally can do. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah, I already spoke, so I'll be very brief. I would just remind everybody here that a primary reason for the Al-Qaeda attack on the Pentagon here in Arlington, 9/11, was US support for Israeli mistreatment, racist mistreatment of the Palestinian people. So this is an issue that is very close to home and that hits us. We lost a lot of people on 9/11. This is, again, as other people have mentioned, it's not just something that's very, very far away, but it's impacting people here in Arlington in many, many ways, even until this day. Thank you.
With no more public comment, then we will proceed to our next item on the agenda. Item is.
Wanda, I'm sorry to interject, but I had asked Bill to add a couple of items to the agenda, and he said that he would. I have not seen an update agenda. So I just want to mention that he agreed to embed at the end of our time, if we still have time, commissioner reports, because we haven't had that on our agenda for a while. And also an update on the changes to the ordinance that we've been working on for 5 years. Thanks.
Rolling.
Okay.
We'll go to the next item, which is discussion regarding letter from Equity Arlington.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone had the opportunity, I hope, to read the Equity Arlington letter from the president of Equality Arlington to the Arlington County Board Chair and to Mark Schwartz. I have to admit that I thought that Callum Macbeth was going to be at this meeting because I thought he was going to speak pretty much on the subcommittee. But since the matter of the subcommittee is something to which is not going to be considered because they've decided to nip that in the bud, that I guess what Callum decided to do is to not be present at this meeting. I know he chairs the Housing Commission, and the Housing Commission meets at about the same time, but I was hoping that there would be someone from Equality Arlington to pretty much speak to the letter. But I'll just make a couple of remarks regarding it, because the reason why I wanted to have a discussion on this was because the letter itself deals with issues to which this commission has been dealing with pretty much for years. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Municipal Equality Index, this is something that is compiled by the Human Rights Campaign. Every year, the Human Rights Campaign conducts a survey of municipalities in the United States. It has a list of criteria that it uses in assessing that particular community's commitment to issues involving the LGBTQ community. And as a result of conducting a survey, it then issues a scorecard to that particular municipality in which it gives a certain score to issues that it has identified as things we should be dealing with. It was brought to the attention of the Human Rights Commission in the past by the predecessor executive director, a particular scorecard that was issued by the Human Rights Campaign. And the score was a very low score. The commission at that time decided to take on that particular matter of the score and the whole survey and see what we could do in order to improve the score. So what the Human Rights Commission did was we established an equality task force. And we had it chaired by one member pretty much of the commission, and other members served as members of that task force. And it was that task force tasked to work with Arlington County to see if we could improve the score. And we did, and we accomplished a lot. As an example, when we started the particular task force, there wasn't really any information on the website regarding LGBTQ issues. We were able to put together a website pretty much on that with links that heretofore had not been placed on any on the website there in Arlington County. Worked very closely with various departments on identifying and dealing with issues, and also worked very closely with employees within Arlington, many of whom are gay, and dealing and helping us to identify issues and to pretty much come up with suggestions as ways to deal with it. As a result, pretty much of all of that work, we were able to improve the score. So, and just a matter of a couple of years, we went from a score of about like 92, 93 to 100, which is the highest that they will award someone. And we got that, I think, in about like 1920, and we've been 100 pretty much ever since. However, the municipality index identifies areas, and there are areas in the index to which Arlington has received very low, and in some instances, 0 score. The problem that we've had in the past in dealing with this is when you bring it up to certain people, the response that we get back is we have 100. So since we have 100, that's it. Well, there have been areas that the Human Rights Campaign has identified as deficient areas to which the commission in its equality task force has said, well, we still think we should be dealing with these areas because we always strive to become a more perfect union. And so just like that, we always strive to become a more perfect society, especially one that does perform the services for the LGBTQ community, which should be performed. Some of those areas still exist, that is those deficient areas. And what the Equality Arlington has, and by the way, Equality Arlington is a fairly new organization. It is one that has been, that this month celebrated a year of existence. So it hasn't been around pretty much that long, but they have accomplished a lot in the year in which they've been in existence. And this particular document shows pretty much some of the work that they've done. What they have done here is they have identified those problem areas, and they have been working with the county. They have been working with students. They've been working with employees. They've been working with department heads and trying to deal with the deficient areas. They've been successful, but as you can see, there are still some areas which pretty much has to be done. I think that we should have, we being the Human Rights Commission, that we should have a dialogue with Equality Arlington, because number one, this is an area where for years we have been dealing with. This is an area where for the past year or so they have been dealing with. And maybe if we sit down and have at least a talk, we can probably find ways in which we can pretty much work together to deal with the so-called deficient areas that they've identified. And as an example, I'm just gonna, I don't want to go through everything and go down everything, but I'll just take one because we have made our position on one particular item very clear, and that is the anti-bullying policy. For years, Arlington County has received 0 points because we don't have an anti-bullying policy. And what the Human Rights Commission did in on April 19, 2018, which is 6 years ago, sent a letter to the county board chair recommending that Arlington establish an anti-bullying policy for all county facilities. Now, what they're dealing here in Equality Arlington is just rec centers. what we at the commission said, it should be a broader policy dealing with county facilities. So that's one particular area I think where we should have pretty much a discussion with them on. Not having had anything done on that particular item, on May 13th, 2021, the Human Rights Commission actually adopted a draft of an anti-bullying policy with procedures and everything, and sent it up to the county board, because our authority is to advise the county board and recommend that this be the policy and procedures of Arlington County. And we haven't heard anything about it. It's just still there. We still keep inquiring about it, but it's there. As those of you know, we had a meeting recently with the county attorney. She was here for a discussion on issues. That particular matter was brought up with the county attorney, and the county attorney said, well, I read it and I didn't have any problems with it. So the question then that we have is, if the county attorney didn't have any problems with it, why hasn't Arlington done it? And we have even gone so far as to say we think that Arlington should at least say, as a broad policy, that we are against bullying. And it's not just bullying of kids, which Equality Arlington deals with, it's bullying of people in general. Surprisingly, people may find this hard to believe, but seniors are bullied. So, and so that should be pretty much dealt with in this anti-bullying policy as well, not just a summer code. So I think we should sit down with them and talk about it. And also I think we should sit down with them and see what we can do in order to get such a broad policy position. Also, well, first, let me see, does anyone have any questions regarding the letter itself? Anything in there? Because it's pretty definitive what they have done and pretty much what they recommend that we do. What I think we ought to do is sit down with Equality Arlington, invite them here and have a discussion pretty much regarding this. Because one of the things that this commission can do is, pursuant to section 31-6L, we can have public discussions pretty much on this thing. So maybe that might be something that we pretty much want to do. But I wanted to bring this to the attention of the commission, because I think this is something we pretty much should be dealing with. We've had a history pretty much of dealing with this. We've been very successful pretty much with the Equality Task Force. As you can see, even though we've accomplished all of these things, there's still more. This group has decided they want to tackle that. And I think we ought to pretty much sit down with them, talk to them and say, how can we work with you to do that?
I have one question.
Sure.
It's more of a point of clarification. I think I heard you say that maybe when the task force was first formed, someone from the Human Rights Commission was directly working.
Oh, God,
with them?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, we chaired it.
So
We chaired it. We
Okay.
chaired it, and we chaired, we are the Equality Task Force. In other words, it consisted of one of our members, Kyle Tibbetts, as the chair, and other members of the commission served as members of the task force. And they were the ones who pretty much went on. So, point of information, he did such a good job on that, and a couple of other things, that he was recognized by Arlington as a volunteer of the year. So it kind of showed, even with all of their work, that he was recognized by the county pretty much well.
And at this point, is there anyone from the commission directly working with them, or are they kind of off on their own?
At this particular point, we had someone working on the Equality Task Force, but he since is not a member of the commission. And at the present time, we don't have anyone working on that Equality Task Force.
Yeah.
That, again, is something we should discuss,
Yeah.
whether or not we really do want to put someone or have members serve. Pretty much.
Just sounds like something would be good to stay connected with, on an ongoing basis in terms of what they're working on and what they're doing. So it would be good maybe to discuss someone being like a liaison in some capacity.
So, Bill.
In addition to that, though, problem is that the Arlington County Board has not come to us to act upon what we have sent to them in terms of we have this bullying policy and so on. So it seems that we've done all the work we need to do. We're waiting for the county board to accept it and say, we're gonna put it in the books. So having a liaison or having anything, we need to ask the county board, ask Matt Ferrantes, come here and say, no, we never got this. I don't know what you commissioner is talking about, or we have it in the books and it's time to seal it and deal with it and have the commissioner office to send them a letter and say where we stand on this. Because if I heard you right, in 6 years.
Yeah.
So I think, no more politeness.
Yeah, well,
True, I could be wrong.
oh, no. There are aspects of Arlington County that clearly have something in place dealing with anti-bullying. For example, they mentioned here the summer code of conduct dealing with rec and everything, dealing with kids. Pretty much they have something on that. Go to the library pretty much has, pretty much a policy, pretty much regarding that. But what the Human Rights Commission is saying is, we think you should have an overall policy that just says this is something that will not be tolerated. I mean, when you look at the city of Alexandria, they have something like that. When you look at the Falls Church, they have something like that. When you look at Fairfax County, they have something like that. All of the municipalities here in DC has a broad general policy. How they implement it, how the county implements is pretty much up to the county. But our position is you should at least have a policy that says you're not going to, you don't anti-bullying. Now, the school system has such a policy. They've had it in effect for years. The school system has a pretty good training program pretty much in place where they pretty much deal with it. So one of the responses that we have had, and we brought this up, as you want to know, with county board members regarding all of this stuff, is that hey, half of the county, the school system, has a policy in place. So if you're looking for someone to sort of emulate, there's the school system right there, but a big pretty much policy. But what we're finding out from Equality Arlington is even with the school system and what they have in place, they still pretty much have problems. But we're not dealing with the school system. They can deal with the school system, which is a good thing. But our whole thing is we just think it's good for Arlington to say we're not going to tolerate that. So thank you. So I guess Wanda, where I think we should leave this is, I think we should try to get Ellen or someone from Arlington, maybe at the next meeting, to discuss this and let's see what we can do to work with them on it. I do know that the issues that have been brought up regarding senior LGBTQ issues have been presented to one of the working groups at the Commission on Aging. The reason why I know that is because I serve on the Commission on Aging. So those issues are pretty much going to be dealt with there. But still, we should be all pretty much working together to sort of deal with these things.
Questions or comments?
Well, it gets to kind of the whole point also of why I had wanted an update on the ordinance. Because that too has been pending since 2019. And so we spent a lot of time, we did a lot of work working on these. I know Steve has brought up at multiple meetings, the issues with the bullying in the school. We're hearing it from people in the room. We don't have the jurisdiction. We seem to be hung up over whether or not we have jurisdiction over the schools. But we need to get this resolved because we have people coming in, people emailing us on our personal email, telling us about bullying and problems that they're having in schools. So the county board has to take some type of action to make sure that people do feel safe and comfortable in this community. And I think we heard enough in public comment that there are people who don't feel as safe and as welcome here as they should.
Yeah, I don't generally respond to public comment as a matter of rule. But one of the things that I was sort of putting in the back of my head to say was that what we should be doing in the commission is getting the Arlington Public Schools incorporated into the ordinance that we can address the discrimination that's happening on both sides in the schools. Because right now we can't even do that because APS is excluded. But if we can get APS included, then that's what we can do to contribute something to this obviously very important and divisive issue. That's our role, right? To deal with the discrimination of whether it's Jews or Indians or anybody else or anything else. I mean, I've got a whole list of like genocides going on in the world here that I was prepared to talk about if I needed to, but it didn't matter. But like whether it's right, I mean, Darfur, Sudan, Nigeria, Afghanistan, Syria, India, the Uyghurs, Ethiopia, Democratic Republic of Congo, like there's all kinds of crises all over the world. So to the extent that there's discrimination against those people here in Arlington, that's how we contribute. So I emailed Dr. Duran's assistant earlier to get back on his calendar, hopefully. And maybe the three of us can go and see if we can convince him to convince the board to pass the resolution. I mean, when Matt was here, I don't know if you guys who was here for the meeting, I couldn't understand what his opposition was.
That was my point. It would be good to know, even from the board standpoint, what is the opposition? You know, is it really just at a place of standstill, or has there just been actual opposition that is kind of continuing the standstill? That's a good place to work from.
Yeah, I can't get a clear answer from that. I don't know, Roland, if you had any more insight on that.
It's all politics. Yeah. It's
what are they worried about? Like, what are the political repercussions of including APS? Are the teachers opposed to this? Do the teachers don't want to be included? Like, it's not the students.
I don't know. All I can say is this: when we had established that education task force, and we had, for those of you who were familiar, we established an education task force because we got a letter from the president of Black Parents of Arlington regarding discrepancies and treatment of people of color pretty much in the school system. And so what we did was we established an education task force to sort of look into the whole matter, kind of recognize we didn't have jurisdiction, but still just sort of air out and see pretty much where problems were. That particular task force really met pretty frequently, and they had members of the Human Rights Commission who looked on the task force. They had teachers who participated pretty much in it. They had students who actually participated in it, and some of the best information came from students themselves. They're just listening to them talk about, and they had parents who pretty much participated, and we had people from the NAACP who pretty much the head of the education committee pretty much participated. And so that group started a whole discussion and a whole process pretty much on it, and it didn't lead to the to anything on a political nature, but one of, I think, the conclusion there was that we should be asserting some sort of jurisdiction over, because right now there isn't anything that pretty much exists, because even if you go over and look at the school system, and you probably might know more about this one than I do, but with the school system, it's the individual principals and schools who pretty much have authority. So just imagine how chaotic that is, because the sole authority rests with the principal of the school. So that's something that one would be looking at when one has to deal with pretty much all that stuff. So, it's not an easy. I guess my point is, it's not an easy thing, and so it's. I think it's easy, but when you kind of look at the politics of it and everything, it really isn't easy. Alexandria, as you all know, the Human Rights Ordinance does have jurisdiction over the public school system, but it's very limited in the sense that it says whatever the Human Rights Commission comes up with goes to the school board. It doesn't pretty much go, that's pretty much as far as it goes. Fairfax County doesn't have the Human Rights Commission.
But Richmond does, I think, too.
Richmond, I think, pretty much does, but Richmond is so progressive as opposed to.
We're not here in Arlington. We think we're middle of the road here.
Really?
I have my doubts. Could I just jump in and ask a question? Roland, thank you for bringing this very important topic to the agenda. I think, it needs to be considered. And I would agree with Stefan's assessment and Carol's that we do need to add APS to the ordinance, if I understand it correctly. I think it is definitely within our purview to be involved in what is happening in schools. It's in our community, and it's a serious issue right now. A lot of people have brought it up. I think we need to listen to what they've said and act in a way that is going to, create a safer community. And that's part of our charge. As far as the precedent, from other communities, I think that provides a pretty powerful reason also for going forward with this. I'm also a little puzzled as to, Roland said politics. Yeah, I mean, for that matter, politics is the answer to a lot of questions, but it doesn't really provide an answer, I don't know if it would be helpful to take a deeper dive into determining what the real concerns or objections are, and perhaps figure out a constructive way to get around them. Thank you.
What do we think about reluctant to go onto Facebook, to the Arlington Education Now Facebook group, but I don't know how else we can try to reach out to the public schools, or probably not in our official capacity, maybe in our individual capacities, and try to get stories or instances of discrimination either related to the Middle East conflict or something else, that when we go to talk to Duran, we have some examples of why it's important for APS to be included in the ordinance. I don't know the best way to solicit. I mean, I know people come to you, Carol, all the time, but just, this is happening, fix it. But I don't know what the best way to do is to go to solicit that information from the APS community. Happy to try the Facebook thing. Fine, we'll get a lot of stuff probably. But
Do you think that, Stephen, do you think that APS collects its own data on that topic? It might be helpful to go directly to them, or you don't think that that's part of what they do. I like the idea of the task force that Roland was mentioning, but because it seems like a research-based, body, but maybe there is such a thing. I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
yeah, I don't know either. I can ask around. I can ask some. I can ask teachers, administrators, people that we know, and see. I've got people that I can ask, but I also don't know if they would release it officially if they do collect it. If they may track it in the aggregate, say that there were X numbers of discrimination that occurred this month, which may be all we need. But they're probably not going to tell us exactly what was said and what it were related to. Whether gender, race, religion, whatever.
Oh, and by the way, the Education Task Force did also have discussions with the school system, because they did have their meetings officials from APS. So that was a way in which to reach over to the other side and to have pretty much a discussion. But again, all of that was under the realm of fact finding and trying to see pretty much what problems and issues. So.
And one other thing too, for those who were on the commission at the time, in addition to the students of color facing bullying issue, whatever, it also students with disabilities. So I don't want to leave that out because that was also brought to our attention. And also in the area of disparate discipline for similar offenses, when a student would do something in school, how it was dealt with was they felt that there was a difference there as well.
I guess I have a procedural type of question in terms of, Kara, I think you spoke about there was a ordinance that was sent for APS and we're waiting for that. Is that something that?
No, well, the update.
That's different?
No, yeah, our update to the human rights ordinance that
Okay.
we've been working on also since 2019. But we had asked to work on it since maybe 2016. So we were given the green light to, do updates on 2019. It's embarrassing. Our ordinance still talks about handicapped people. So we are way behind the rest of the Commonwealth in terms of what we consider a human rights, the area we consider a source of income. So.
And that's something that the county board has,
No.
Well, I don't know where
They have
it's
the
at
county-
right now.
The county board, the county board has our recommendation for the school system
Yeah,
because that went forward.
right.
So our recommendation for they have jurisdiction over the school system is there. The matter dealing with the changes to the ordinance is still here. That is still with the commission. And one of the things, we had sent it up to the county board, but they said they didn't receive it and came back and said, it's our fault. They didn't, it kind of got lost pretty much over there on the county board side. So, so what we decided to do was to take what we had sent over there to them and then start redoing it, working with the county attorney. So we actually worked with someone, I forgot her name, but in the county attorney's office as we went over our proposed changes. We had several meetings with her and there were lots of changes. They haven't been a problem at all because they were all sort of cosmetic things. For example, our statute mentions handicap. I mean, that's like what, 25, 30 years ago? So, I mean, it's things like that. And so we had several discussions with her. There were several drafts that pretty much, but we never got to the final phase where we said, okay, this is it. Because clearly as we went through it, for example, there were one or two areas where you could see that they weren't really agreeing with us on it. But the bottom line there is if the commission wants to propose something that is really a policy change, then it's up to the commission to propose it. And then if they, as the county attorneys, their recommendation is against it, then that's their recommendation that goes to the county board. So then the county board can make pretty much the decision and stuff. So we were there with some things, but they were kind of small. But we never finalized, say, okay, yeah, this is the document. These are the changes that we pretty much all agreed to and send it up there. And well,
that's the question.
That's the question. So but it doesn't mean that we can't do it, right, Stephen? No. I mean, because we have the drafts. So it can just send, my thinking on it is you send to them what you want the statute to be and then let them deal with it. Yes. Because the whole, I think the prevailing belief at that time, and I wasn't chair at that time, was to work with the county attorney and see if we can get pretty much an agreement on this stuff. And then I thought that meant that when it officially went up there wasn't going to be any discussion on the part of the county attorney because you were sitting down with him, you going over everything, and they pretty much agreed on the language. That wasn't what I was told was going to be the case. So in other words, we were wasting all of this time sitting there and they're going with them on all of this stuff. We send it up there, and then for them, they go back to square one, pretty much when they work on it. So therefore, that's why I think what we ought to do is just take what we have and then just bring it before the commission and just say, this is it, then send it to the county board. There are things in there which have to be changed. There are things in there we know don't change. For example, source of income. We had that in there. Well, during the time the source of income has been sitting there on that thing, the county board about a couple of weeks ago voted source of income into the human rights ordinance. We had the Atlanta Lieutenant Commission and have recommended that several years ago. And nothing pretty much went on from the county board, but they got another push from the Housing Commission pretty much on that. And so now that's up before the county board. Well, okay, that's fine, but the state put it in the state human rights ordinance in 2019. So, and that was when we were proposing. It took all that time to put it into a local. It's what had been placed into the state. Actually, when you look at the state ordinance, which is what we've been putting in the county ordinance, you will see that the state human rights ordinance has a broad area. I mean, you may be familiar with broad area of protections, which are in there. Gender identity, hair, all of this stuff is in the state human rights ordinance. It's not in our local. Our local is still archaic. But what that says to me is that we should just go ahead and put it all in there, send it up, and then let them pretty much deal with it. Because what we would be doing is putting the local ordinance in compliance with the state.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so the Dillon rule doesn't apply because it's in the state ordinance.
Right, but the original plan was we all thought incorrectly that it would be a relatively easy ask to just add in APS. One change is like 7 words or something in the ordinance, very, very small. And once that got done, which honestly would have the biggest possible impact, in my opinion, in the ordinance, even if you take all the other changes combined, like APS is the biggest fish. Then we can go back and propose everything.
Right.
We didn't want everything else to hold up the APS thing.
Right.
Who are we to know that the APS is the one that's holding everything else up? So I suppose we could just propose everything now since it's going nowhere. But I think part of the reason you might want to wait is to see how this meeting Duran goes. Because the only really thing that I could kind of hear Matt saying was that if the school board says that they want this, the county board will do it. And so what's the thought process would go to Duran, have him buy in, hopefully, then get the school board members to buy in. And if that group collectively, us, Duran, the school board, tells county board, we want APS involved in the ordinance, then they would pass it. And then at that point, we can then send up the full edited draft of the ordinance.
That we could work on it still, though.
Yeah, but yeah, I see where you're coming from, Steve, but there are parts of that ordinance, that really should be in effect now. I mean, we really shouldn't have an ordinance where we use the word handicap.
Right.
People with disabilities are offended.
Sure.
So we really should not be having that in there.
Well, what's even worse is now the ordinance.
So we should be getting that stuff
Ordinance
out.
now says updated 2024 on it. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
There's been no updates on it, but it says updated 2024. So it looks like we're still using the word handicap, but 2024 ordinance makes it look even dumber than we already look. Because right, I mean, but at least it's an old ordinance. We say, okay, fine, it's 90. It's an embarrassment, right?
So that's all the more reason why we should just get it.
My only concern is if we do that and we pass some updates and they don't pass APS, they're going to move on. And APS really is the most important part.
So the other point to APS was when I met with a member of the county board on November 1st, and I had a very long conversation with Roland afterwards. And I remember the date because I was actually on my way to Africa that day, and so there was a lot going on. But the other point that was raised vis-a-vis APS is there was a concern that collective bargaining agreements would have to be redone. And Roland spent quite a number of years working with collective bargaining agreement, more years than I did, and did not feel that that was a valid consideration. And from an HR perspective, I would have to agree, because when laws change, collective bargaining agreements get modified to accommodate whatever those changes are.
So how soon do we think we can meet with Dr. Duran and school board members, or we wait till after the
I'm not.
election or the appointment?
No, I don't think we're gonna wait. I emailed them earlier this week, waiting to hear back from his assistant, and then we'll find a date that works, and however many of the 3 of us can go, and but we just got to do it and see what happens.
Okay.
Then, I mean, if we want to start reaching out to the school board members directly on our own, I think that's fine too.
And maybe either way, we can just take a look maybe look at the state ordinance, look at the ordinance to date at the next meeting, you know, just kind of get the process started.
Yeah, I
They
think
go marry together with APS, but
that's a good idea.
A good question to ask at these school board forums, but it might be a little bit late for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, that would have been a good question. Yeah.
in terms of the Equality Task Force letter that's already with the county board, is that something Gurjeet or someone could write a letter asking the county board, hey, this has been pending, what's the status?
Well, the county board, I don't think we have to, because the county board has acknowledged the letter. And actually, there is a statement out by Libby Garvey in which she says she acknowledges the letter and she's going to work towards dealing with the issues presented in the letter. So they are on record and saying they're going to be dealing, and they have been dealing with it. For example, and I should have brought this up when I was doing the presentation, one of the things that's here in the letter is that they do not market the services that are provided to the LGBTQ plus community. That's a problem, I think, overall with a whole bunch of other issues pretty much as well, whether or not they're adequately out there for the public to know, as you well know, whether or not these services and stuff are really out there, put that word out pretty much in the community. But one of the areas in the in dealing in the letter was that the county provides services for STD, sexually transmitted diseases. They provide HIV testing and stuff, but no one knows about it. No one knew that these services were provided. At one time they were provided, but now there is some sort of fee pretty much on it. And the position here of Equality Arlington is that if you don't advertise and people don't know, then it doesn't really exist. So therefore, when someone said, are they taking care of us when it comes to the area of STDs and everything else, I said, no. But then when they went to the county says, oh no, we have this, we have that. And so they came back to the county and said, well, why didn't you, and they're talking this way with various people in the departments, so well, why don't you tell people that? Why don't you advertise? And the response they got back was, we don't have any money to do it. So you're sitting here with this service that you provide, but you don't have money pretty much to advertise it. Well, one of the good accomplishments that Equality Arlington was able to do in working specifically with county board members was they got into the 2025 budget, and they just announced it last week, about $25,000 specifically earmarked to do marketing in this particular area. So they're able to, so that's one big plus, pretty much. So to answer you, that was a long way to answer your question, Wanda, but they are working with them and they are getting some things pretty much done, pretty much working with them on it stuff. So,
Can I just ask a real quick question about that? Well, Roland, when you say marketing, do you mean like outreach?
yes, exactly right. Outreach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood what that meant. Seemed a little out of context. Thank you.
so moving forward, we should bring this back to the meeting next month to discuss the broader state human rights, state law.
You mean the recommended changes?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
We should reach out.
Next Monday in person.
We should help them all. Next month,
That's one of the
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm very blessed.
So Carol, did we address your updates to the ordinance, or is there anything else?
No, thank you. No, I just wanted to make sure we got back on our agenda because it just seems like it fell off and we just haven't had an opportunity to bring things, especially timely with other things going on. Thank you, Wanda.
And you mentioned commissioner reports, so does me go around the table and ask? Updates?
Just kind of interested in knowing what people are working on. I know from outside conversations, for example, I know Roland has a lot that he's been working on that's related, and I know Fatima has, so I'm assuming everybody has.
We'll start with you.
Oh, okay, well, all right, well, I had the opportunity in the fall to visit Mauthausen concentration camp in Austria, and it's one of the concentration camps that my grandmother was at. And for those of you on the commission who don't know, my grandmother was a Christian resistance fighter who was arrested for the work she did to help Jews escape Europe and also politically to undermine Hitler. So that was a very moving experience for me, visiting Mauthausen. When I came back, I spoke to Arlington 55 Plus, and I said I'd be happy to do a presentation on the concentration camp, because I think it's important that we remember these things, and it's part of our mission. And so along with one of the other members of the Arlington 55 Plus staff who had gone to Auschwitz, we did a joint program on her visit to Auschwitz and my visit to Mauthausen. I wanted to let you know about it. It will be on their video channel at some point, and I'll let everybody on the commission know when that's there. Another thing I had, and I apologize because I left it in the car because I got a call when I was coming in. I was distracted by my phone call, but I did pick up copies of the Human Rights Ordinance of all places, a Scientology event. The Scientologists are actually doing a lot in the area of human trafficking, which is something we haven't spoken about at the on the commission, but it's another really huge human rights issue throughout the Commonwealth. And so I was very interested in hearing what they were working on, and they gave me little copies of the Human Rights Ordinance, and I'm happy to get the ones I have in my car if people want to stay after the meeting, or I can make sure that I bring them to another meeting. I apologize because that's just a couple of things that I mentioned.
Thank you.
Have we ever addressed human trafficking?
I don't recall us ever speaking about human trafficking. Don Beyer actually had a wonderful presentation on it very early on. I think shortly after he became a congressman. A fabulous program on human trafficking, brought it to our attention. And I think it's an important issue to speak about because I don't hear anybody really talking about it, but he had a lot of really great information about how to spot somebody who might be being trafficked, what to do. So one of the things I recall was if you see people maybe kind of congregating, getting picked up in a van, or if you see underage people in odd places. And so I think it would actually, and Congressman Beyer might be interested in doing another forum on it because it's been a number of years since he's been elected. But
It'd be interesting to know the statistics for Arlington or just the surrounding area.
Yes.
You know, to really see how much.
Yeah.
But there's like a local human trafficking organization in Rust.
There's
Yeah,
something
but-
blue.
Yeah, but I forgot the year, Carol, that we pretty much did this, but one of the recipients of the James B. Hunter Award was an individual who was, she was sort of pushed into prostitution and human trafficking at a very young age. I think it was about like 9 or 10. And she ended up writing a book about the experience. And because she was a native Arlingtonian, and this whole matter happened in this area, so which was surprising to people that it does, but it does pretty much happen to this area. And she wrote a book about it. And she did a lot of work, pretty much volunteer work and charitable work, pretty much in the field, that we honored her with the James B. Hunter Award. And she, when she accepted the award, she talked about pretty much her experiences here. But it was just interesting to hear that this is something that happens here, and that this is one of the largest areas for human trafficking, simply because of the military which is here, and simply because of the diplomatic, which is.
I think, is that Barbara Amara?
So,
I think that's the one.
I don't, if she wrote a book, then.
Yes, she did. And
then it was her.
She did, and actually, I saw her. I first met her years ago before the human rights thing. She was presenting at the Red Cross, and they had a comprehensive conference on that topic. One of the other sources of information about this that might be useful is the International Migration Organization. They collect a lot of stats on this. They have a lot of graphics that are very helpful as well. I can provide more sources, resources on that if there's enough interest, because I've worked on this issue in the past, and I'm happy to share.
Anything else, Carol? Thank you. Well,
No reports.
I don't have any reports, but I do have a question. It was a question that I had for myself earlier, but in terms of the agenda being posted, is that something that you do or we don't do?
We don't typically post. There's no requirement to post. We do post the minutes recording.
How does everyone feel about the agenda not being posted in advance? It's no requirement.
Is it being posted now though? It's not. Okay, because it was just, that's what I felt like a lot of people were saying was that they were seeing the agenda, they were seeing. it.
Right, that's.
So that's
When
why.
you got
I
all
was
those details,
confused.
right.
Yeah,
That was the other.
They might have.
Yes. Can I?
We brought up that it would be on the agenda, and that's what.
Yes, Fatima?
So I just have I'm a little confused about this, because the people that said that the agenda, there was this one woman, she was the one that wasn't able to finish what she was trying to say because of audio issues. But it was a little confusing to me, because she was saying that on the one hand that, you know, she thought that the agenda, because it wasn't posted, was being kept secret, yet somehow she managed to find out about it. So and all the other people that were on this call somehow managed to find out about it too. So
It was mentioned in the last meeting that Bill Rice said that he would basically bring it up, table it until next month, meaning today.
Okay.
There was a discussion.
Fatima, I asked that question also because we did not receive copies of minutes of the last meeting, and so I had asked about that, and because there wasn't anything for me to read to find out how the resolution came before us, who presented it, who wrote it. So I had a lot of questions about the resolution in general, because I think just even going forward, aside from the vote tonight as to whether or not we have jurisdiction, what is our process for considering any type of resolution that comes before us as a board? So for example, there was a woman who was speaking tonight about wanting us to write a resolution about the discriminatory housing practices that they had. I know I personally was appalled when I found out there was one of those restricted covenants on my house, and I found out about it quite by accident when I was just looking at property lines, and I went to the clerk's office and found that there was restricted covenants. And having a niece that's African American, it was really quite alarming to me to find out she would not have been able to live in my house. And I raised it at that point, much as this woman did today, and I was told, well, the housing laws have changed, so don't worry about it. And that's never sat well with me, because I don't disagree that as a county, it would still be nice to take an affirmative stance to say whether or not the law changed and Arlington had to go along with it, that this is a place that does not support that type of discriminatory practice. So I'm just bringing it up because it was brought up earlier, but just in general, how should we move forward, or should we have a discussion about how we consider these types of resolutions that come to our attention? I don't know if somebody brought this hard copy resolution in last month. Now it's being raised in a meeting, but, and I don't know that we necessarily have to have more discussion on it tonight, but it's certainly something that I think we need to have conversation about.
Yeah.
And
No, I think you raise an excellent point, Carol. I totally agree with you. I think there needs to be more conversation about what the criteria are in terms of determining whether or not we want to consider certain resolutions or not. And I'm not sure that was necessarily done tonight. I know I said that before. I don't think anybody on this commission had the opportunity to read it. I realize it is a moot point, simply, at least at this point in time, simply because the county board has sort of preempted us in that regard. And but still, I think it would have made a meaningful. It would have made a meaningful statement on human rights, and so.
Do you know who submitted it? I don't have any
with the
information.
resolution.
I know, but
The
Bill,
resolution?
Bill was very good in sending
Right.
the information pretty much to us. And what I gather what happened, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was that particular resolution was sent to the county board members and it was sent to Bill.
Oh,
So in other words, he was listed pretty much on it as well. And the response that came back was the response from the chair, Libby Garvey. So she responded to that resolution itself, even though Bill was pretty much sent on it.
Oh, but to your point, at the last meeting, there was a gentleman who also provided his own version of it. And then we did hear him out and looked at it. I don't think we had a discussion on it.
No,
I don't think so.
We did it.
But the process, more than anything, is what you're talking about. When we're presented with that, how do we, going forward, let the public know in transparency how we're gonna handle it? Yeah.
Which we had never done, so therefore it was an issue that we were not transparent.
Yeah.
right.
And I just want to go back to the agenda pieces. I'm about being transparent.
Yeah.
But if I'm missing something, is there any reason why we can't put the agenda online? If anyone has.
Well, I think we haven't in the past, and I think it's a lot to do with getting the agenda completed and done in enough time to be able to post it. So things have to be posted on the site. You just can't put it up there like the day before. I think it has to be finalized and put up there several days pretty much in advance. So, but I think that's something they just bring up for discussion pretty much with Bill. Let's see if we can come up with a particular procedure. So maybe it might have to be deadline pretty much.
Well, and to your point, that was actually something I had raised to Helen quite a few months ago with respect to the agenda. I said, we don't seem to have enough information on the agenda that would compel a member of the public to necessarily come to our meeting. So now if people are going back and looking at a prior meeting and then that interests them in the next meeting, that's one thing, but it still doesn't necessarily inform them as to what the final agenda might be and whether or not there's a topic that they have a personal interest in and they'd like to speak on. So I agree with you. It would be helpful to have our agenda posted.
Mike Rowland, and that one bill comes. Yeah.
I have a suggestion. I'm hearing these two different thoughts on whether it, I don't think Roland said that we shouldn't have one, but I think he explained why we don't have one. And I think it does make sense. Being on on other boards, I understand how that works because, we're all volunteers here and sometimes it's hard to get that together in time. Maybe what we could consider is adding an agenda with a disclaimer to the effect that this is a draft agenda and may change by the time of the meeting. And that might satisfy some people that, it's not that we're not being transparent, but we're trying to provide as much information as we can given our limited resources. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I like that disclaimer idea. I think I mean, we could just put the same agenda every.
And another point I want to make is that previously, and it's probably been a few years since we did this, but we used to get a draft agenda. It would be sent out as a draft agenda and we would be asked if there was anything we wanted to add to the agenda so that there was in fact input from all the commissioners. And I would like to see us return to that just as a matter of policy because, you know, it's a few weeks between meetings and things come up and we shouldn't just say, okay, next month we're going to do this and then that becomes the agenda.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. I just have one more quick thing. Might not be so quick. But in reading the emails and even listening to the testimony, I heard statements about the, you know, APS children being bullied. With us hearing that, what is our role in the Human Rights Commission, the children being mistreated, bullied?
I agree with you, but my concern was, isn't school doing something about it? If that is actually happening, I'm okay being told about it, but what are we gonna do? I mean, do we?
And targeted because of the war.
Right.
Yeah.
So is this APS, their board aware of it? I mean, we don't know.
But I'm saying, since we've heard this
You mean in terms
information,
of the us?
hearing it, it's written in the emails that we receive, so, you know, you have a responsibility to do something in terms of whether it's notifying APS that, hey, we received, information about that.
I was speaking Human Rights Office, that's a human rights issue with APS, are we mandated to ask them that we receive such emails stating that?
You don't have any mandate under the ordinance, I think anything, I'd say anything with APS, you probably wanna discuss with the board, discuss with them. Just particularly given board's comments on the last meeting, so I'd probably pretty straightforward liaison. But you don't have any mandate under the ordinance of part of receipt of email and notifying school board or not.
So would that be the chair who would like send a letter on behalf of the commission that, hey, we received information that students are being targeted and treated and bullied, or is that a letter that comes from you to?
No.
That's not, that we don't have any authority because APS is still excluded from the ordinance.
Right, but in terms of notifying them.
Sure, but it's another opportunity to tell the school board, the county board, hey, if you give us some authority, we can help out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that, the examples in the emails certainly will be brought up when we talk with Duran, but if we want to do something before then, I think it's fine.
So is this something that Bill would do?
Yeah, something Bill should probably do, yeah.
Who would do right now? I won't be here at the next meeting if it's in person only, so someone be able to make that motion.
We'll discuss it.
Yeah, or discuss it with you. I won't be able to raise it on that.
And then school will be over by this meeting, unfortunately, but maybe we can prepare for next school year.
That's all I have. Angela?
No updates, but enjoying hearing about what everyone else is doing.
Is Fatima, are you still on? Or still
I
on?
am, but I'm gonna need to go in a minute because I'm here with my family and we haven't eaten dinner yet, so I've gotta hop off in a minute. But so just a quick synopsis. Yeah, just a quick. We're an hour behind, so just a quick synopsis of what I've been involved with. I've been trying to get some stats actually from various county entities on hate crimes. And I've run up against quite the challenge, one that I quite honestly hadn't anticipated. And yeah, I'm going to continue to do that. But because I think that it falls in line definitely with, and I definitely think it's within our purview. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And I think we need to look at those and, you know, maybe maybe it would also be helpful to have the APS, you know, bullying statistics so that depending on, you know, which way we decide to go with this, all of this information might be collectively considered. And, you know, either making a statement or you know, whatever. But at this point, I'm collecting the information and still waiting for bits and pieces of it to come in to, you know, to bring it before the commission and, you know, see what might be done with it.
If I can make a comment, several years ago, we had our Tiffany Jocelyn seminar was on hate crimes. And Theo Stamos spoke and she provided us with the statistics on hate crimes for the county. So you should be able to get that information from Parissa's office.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will I'll make another attempt. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stefan, are you still there?
No, Stefan hopped off after the ceasefire resolution conversation.
Stephen, do you have any?
No, I don't have anything.
And Roland, any last thoughts?
Nothing else. Hopefully we'll have someone at the next meeting pretty much to discuss this. And also I've been doing a lot of work pretty much in the area of equity. And that's something I'd like to bring up for discussion with the commission at the next meeting. Some of the work I'm pretty much doing.
Awesome.
Well, if there is no other business, I will entertain a motion.
I second.
Great job.
Great job.